Hi everybody, this is your narrator Ali, and I hope you are ready to relax to our story today. Tonight we walk a lonely summer road in old Japan, where a weary traveler will meet a love that belongs not only to this life, but to the hidden paths of the soul. Chapter 1. The Lonely Road Across the Moor. The young man's name was Ito Tatewaki, a samurai by birth and a thoughtful soul by nature. He was returning homeward after a long journey to the ancient city of Kyoto, where business of duty and honor had weighed upon him like armor worn too long in the heat. He traveled alone and on foot, and his eyes were bent upon the dusty road before him, for his mind still turned over the affairs that had taken him to the city. Night came quietly, as it does in summer, letting fall its veil little by little. It found Tatewaki upon a solitary road that crossed a wide, untamed moor. The moor was strewn with rocks and gray stones, yet between them sprang an abundance of wildflowers, bright splashes of color in the fading light. Now and again a dark pine tree rose from the earth, its trunk twisted and gnarled, its crooked boughs stretching into the sky like the arms of some old sentinel. A light wind moved across the moor, carrying the mingled fragrance of warm earth and evening blossoms. Far away, a bird called once and then was silent. The road itself seemed endless, a pale ribbon winding through a land that belonged more to dreams than to men. Tatewaki walked on, his thoughts heavy, his heart somewhat lonely, until at last he lifted his gaze from the ground. Chapter 2. The Maiden in Blue. When Tatewaki raised his eyes, he saw ahead of him, upon that solitary road, the figure of a young woman. She was slender and slight, dressed in a simple gown of blue cotton that caught the faint light of the sky, and she moved with an easy grace, as though the rocky path offered her no hardship. The twilight had deepened, softening the edges of all things, and she seemed almost to float rather than walk. Tatewaki watched her for a little while. She must be the serving maid of some gentle lady, he thought. The way is lonely, and the hour grows late for such a child as she. Compassion stirred in him, for though he was troubled, he had not forgotten kindness. So he quickened his steps and came up beside her. "Child," he said gently, in a voice made courteous by habit and by heart, "since we follow the same lonely road, let us walk together. The twilight is passing, and soon the darkness will reach us. Two travelers keep better company than one." The maiden turned to him. Her eyes were bright, like stars newly risen, and her lips curved into a smiling welcome. "Sir," she answered, "my mistress will be glad indeed." "Your mistress?" Tatewaki repeated, surprised. "Why should your mistress be glad because I am here upon this road?" The maiden's smile deepened, yet there was a touch of mystery in it. "Truly, the time has been long," she replied, "but now she will think no more of that." Tatewaki felt the words fall over him like a soft enchantment. He walked on by the maiden's side as one moves in a dream in which everything seems both strange and entirely right. Chapter 3. The House Beyond the Wicket Gate. In a little while the road curved, and before them, not far from the way, Tatewaki saw a small and lovely house. Before the house lay a fair garden, delicate and ordered, as if painted by a careful hand. A clear stream ran through it, murmuring quietly over stones, and above the stream arched a stone bridge worn smooth where many feet must once have passed. Around the house and its garden stood a bamboo fence, pale in the dusk, and in the fence was a low wicket gate. "Here dwells my mistress," said the serving maid, and she pushed the gate open with a familiar hand. Together they stepped into the garden, where the faint light of evening still clung to the leaves and petals. Tatewaki walked along the narrow path, listening to the music of the little stream. He wondered that he had never before seen this house, though he knew the road and the moor well. Yet his question sank away as he reached the threshold. There, upon the step, a lady was standing as though she had been waiting for him through many seasons. Her beauty was quiet and profound. Her garments fell about her in soft folds. Her eyes held both welcome and sorrow. "You have come at last, my lord," she said, "to give me comfort," and Tatewaki heard himself answer, "I have come." In that moment he knew, with the certainty of a soul that remembers more than one life, that he loved this lady and had loved her since love itself began. "Oh, my heart," he murmured inwardly, "time has no power over such as us." She reached out and took him by the hand. Her touch was cool as moonlight, and together they entered the house. They passed into a room where white mats lay upon the floor and the walls were bare and clean. A round latticed window opened upon the garden, framing the deepening night like a picture. Before the window, in a simple vessel of clear water, stood a single white lily. Its stem was straight, its petals pure, and upon them the last of the evening light rested as gently as a blessing. In that quiet room, beneath the gaze of the lily, Tatewaki and the lady seated themselves and began to speak together. Chapter 4. Moonlight and the Vanishing House. For a long time they conversed, and their words were like water flowing from a deep hidden spring. They spoke of things intimate and eternal, yet they did not trouble themselves with names and histories. To Tatewaki, it seemed that he had finally found the place where his heart had been slowly traveling all his life. By and by, there came into the room an ancient woman, her back slightly bowed, but her eyes still bright with service. In her hand she bore a silver flagon filled with clear sake, and with it she brought little silver drinking cups and all that was needful for a ceremony of union. She set these things before Tatewaki and the lady with the quiet assurance of one who performs a familiar rite. The two of them drank together what is known among lovers as the 3 times 3, a sharing of cups that binds hearts more surely than written vows. As the sweet wine warmed him, Tatewaki felt the last remnants of the outer world slip from his shoulders like a cloak laid aside. There was only the lady, the lily by the window, and the soft, waiting night beyond. When the ceremony was complete, the lady rose. "Beloved," she said softly, "let us go out into the radiance of the moon. See how the night shines with a green, tender light, like an emerald held up to the sky." Her words drew him, and he followed her. They stepped out from the room, leaving the white mats and the round window behind. They passed through the small garden where the stream whispered under the stone bridge. And they came again to the little wicket gate in the bamboo fence. The moon had risen, flooding everything with a light that seemed to come from some other world. Before they had closed the gate, Tatewaki turned once more to look upon the house that had so quickly grown dear to him. Even as he watched, the house trembled like a reflection in disturbed water. The garden, the stream, the stone bridge, the bamboo fence, all grew pale and wavering. Then, like mist stirred by a breath, they faded, dissolved, and were gone. Not a stone remained, not a trace of the path or the gate, only the open moor under the moon. "Alas, what wonder is this?" cried Tatewaki, his heart smitten with sudden fear. The lady turned her calm face to him and smiled. "Let it be, my love," she said softly. "These things have passed because we have no further need of them." Tatewaki looked about and saw that they stood alone upon the wide moor, the night deep and still around them. Chapter 5. 9 Circles of Waiting. On every side, tall lilies grew, ring upon ring, their pale blossoms turned towards the moon, as if listening. Within that silent circle, the lady and Tatewaki stood all the long night. They did not touch one another, but their eyes met and held, as if their souls spoke in a language for which the world has no words. The wind rose and fell, bringing the fragrance of lilies and the distant cry of some unseen creature. The warmth of the evening yielded slowly to the chill that comes before dawn. Yet to them, the heat and the cold were as nothing. Waking and dreaming were the same. There was only the steady exchange of gaze, the unbroken thread between heart and heart. At last the east grew pale, and a faint line of silver showed where the sun would rise. The lady stirred as if some unseen bell had summoned her, and from the depth of her breast there escaped a single, long sigh. "Lady," said Tatewaki, startled from his reverie, "why do you sigh so deeply?" She did not answer at once. Instead, she unclasped the girdle at her waist, a marvelous belt, formed in the likeness of a golden dragon. Its scales were wrought with subtle skill. Its eyes were small jewels, translucent and filled with inner fire. She took this girdle and wound it 9 times about Tatewaki's arm, the metal cool upon his skin. Then she touched each circle with her slender fingers. "Oh, my love," she said, "we must part. These 9 coils are the years that will pass before we meet again." The words fell like stones upon his heart. Tatewaki cried out, "Oh, my beloved, who are you truly? Tell me your name, that I may call it in my loneliness." She looked at him with infinite tenderness. "What have we to do with names, you and I?" she replied gently. "I must go to my people upon the low plains. Seek me not there, only wait for me." As she spoke, her form grew faint, as if woven from mist and moonlight. He reached out, casting himself upon the ground, his hand stretching desperately to catch her sleeve. But his fingers closed on emptiness. He could not hold her. She faded, pale and insubstantial, and was gone. Tatwaki's hand grew cold where it touched the dewy earth, and he lay still as one dead in the gray light of dawn. Birds began to sing hesitantly. The lilies drooped as the night withdrew. When the sun at last rose, its first rays fell upon the motionless figure of the young man upon the moor. Chapter 6. The Night of Souls. With the coming of full daylight, warmth returned to Tatwaki's body, and he stirred. Slowly he rose to his feet, feeling as though he had climbed out of a deep river of dreams. The moor lay around him, quiet and ordinary, with rocks and flowers, and here and there the dark silhouettes of pines. There was no sign of the lady, nor of the ring of lilies that had enclosed their night-long vigil. He looked down at his arm. Around it, shining in the sun, were the 9 golden rings of the dragon girdle. They were no dream. They weighed upon him with the promise of time. "The plains," he whispered, "the low plains, there I shall find her." So, with the golden token tight upon his arm, he set off swiftly down from the moor towards the level lands. In a while he came to a broad river. Upon its green banks many people were gathered, men, women, and children in festival dress. On the surface of the river there glided small boats woven from fresh flowers, red dianthus, pale campanula, sprays of goldenrod, and white meadowsweet, all arranged with reverent care. Each flower boat bore a tiny light and rode the slow current like a living lantern. The people called out to Tatewaki as he passed. "Stay with us, traveler," they said. "Last night was the night of souls. The spirits of the dead came once more to earth and wandered where they wished, carried by the kind wind. Today they return to Yomi, the land of shadows. They go in these flower boats, and the river bears them away. Stay with us and wish the departing souls a gentle journey." Tatewaki paused a moment and watched the delicate craft drift downstream, bearing invisible passengers. His heart ached, for he felt that somewhere among those wandering spirits the soul of his mysterious lady might also be returning to its place. "May all souls pass in sweetness and peace," he called, "but I cannot stay." And he turned away from the river, hurrying onward. At last he reached the plains. There he found no living village, no waiting lady in blue, but only a wide stretch of ground covered with ancient graves. The stones were worn and leaning. Nettles grew thick among them. Long grass waved in the wind, whispering over names that no one now read. Up and down that lonely field Tatewaki searched, his eyes burning, his heart calling silently for the one he loved. But no answer came from the silent mounds. There was nothing to greet him but the sighing grass and the far-off cry of crows. Chapter 7. 9 Years of Waiting. So Tatewaki turned at last and went back to his own place, his steps slower than before, for he carried now more than his traveling pack. He bore upon his arm the 9 golden circles, and in his chest the weight of a promise. From that day forward he lived as a lonely man. The happiness of a bustling home was not his. No children played about his knees. No wife waited at the door to greet him. Neighbors might speak with him courteously, yet there was always a distance, as though he walked a little apart from their world. When they urged him to take a bride and build a household, he would only smile faintly and say nothing. He kept his garden with great care, pruning the trees, sweeping the paths, and tending the flowers, as if their growth could whisper news from the plains. Sometimes, on clear nights, he would stand under the stars and touch the golden coils that never left his arm, counting them softly like years upon a rosary. "Ah, my love," he would murmur, "I wait, but not patiently. Delay not your coming." Yet the days lengthened into seasons, the seasons into years. One circle of gold matched the turning of 1 year, and then another, and another still. 9 times the plum trees in Tatewaki's garden burst into blossom and dropped their petals like pale snow upon the ground. 9 times the summer cicadas sang their shrill song in the heat, and the autumn leaves flamed and fell. Through all this, the young man became older. Lines appeared upon his face. A quiet gravity deepened in his gaze. But though his body changed, his heart held to its single vow. And the golden dragon coiled upon his arm remained bright, untarnished by time. Chapter 8. The Second Meeting. At last, when the 9th year had run its course, the Night of Souls came round again. It was a night when lanterns glowed before homes and temples, and offerings of food and incense were set out to greet the spirits of loved ones returning from Yomi. In his garden, Tatewaki lit a small lantern and placed it near the path among the whispering leaves. He sat there quietly, listening to the distant murmur of his town and the nearer sounds of the night, the soft tread of a cat, the rustling of bamboo, the faint splash of water from a garden basin. His heart beat slowly, as if counting the years once more. The air felt expectant, as though the world itself were waiting for unseen feet to pass. Lifting his eyes, he saw a figure moving along the path that led through the garden. Lightly she came, threading her way between the shrubs and stepping stones, and the lantern's glow showed her to be a slender girl in a simple gown of blue cotton. Her face was young, yet in her gaze there flickered something ancient and familiar. Tatewaki rose to his feet. His voice, when it came, was the echo of that first night on the moor. "Child," he said very gently, "since we follow the same lonely road, let us travel together for a while. The twilight is passing, and soon it will be dark." The maiden turned to him with bright eyes and smiling lips, exactly as before, as though 9 years were but a single breath. "Sir," she said, "my mistress will be glad indeed." "Will she truly be glad?" Tatewaki asked, and his voice trembled a little. "The time has been long," she answered. "Long," Tatewaki agreed, "and very weary." But the maiden smiled. "Now you will think no more of that," she said softly. A great tenderness and a great weakness came over him. "Take me to your mistress," he whispered. "Guide me, for my eyes grow dim and I cannot see clearly. Hold me, for my limbs fail. Do not let go my hand, for I am afraid. Take me to your mistress." The maiden stepped forward and gently took his hand in hers. The garden around them seemed to grow lighter, though the night was deepening. The leaves rustled as if parting to make way, and a soft, familiar fragrance rose, the scent of lilies under moonlight. Chapter 9. The Road Beyond. In the morning, when the first pale light touched the sky, Tatwaki's servants came to the garden, as they always did, to tend the plants and sweep the paths. There, under the shade of the trees, they found their master lying quiet upon the earth. His face was calm, almost smiling, and the hand that rested upon his breast still lightly circled the arm where the golden dragon had once coiled. They spoke his name, but he did not answer. The lantern from the Night of Souls had burned out, leaving only a wisp of smoke. Birdsong rose around him, bright and unaware. So they understood that he had gone where they could not yet follow, and they mourned him according to custom, with respect and gentle sorrow. What his servants did not see was the road that had opened before their master in the last moments of the night, a road like the lonely path across the moor, yet clearer and more peaceful. Along that road went Tatewaki, no longer burdened by age or care, led by a slender maiden in a gown of blue, whose eyes shone with undimmed joy. Beyond her, waiting at the threshold of a house that needed no garden fence, stood a lady whose love had crossed the boundary of life and death. Closing reflection: the weight of a single promise. And so ends the tale of Karma, the story of Ito Tatewaki, who met a mysterious love upon a summer road and kept faith with her through years of solitude. On a moor of rocks and lilies, he learned that some meetings belong not only to this brief life, but to the long weaving of the soul's journey. A house that was never built upon the earth rose for a time out of moonlight. A girdle of gold marked the passing of 9 silent years. A festival of flower boats carried restless spirits back towards peace. In Tatewaki's steadfast waiting we glimpse the quiet power of a single promise held against the changes of the world. Though he walked among ordinary days, his heart moved to another rhythm, listening for footsteps that no one else could hear. When at last the night of souls returned, love came to lead him along a road beyond fear, where names are forgotten, but recognition is perfect. May this story remind us that our choices and our vows echo farther than we know, shaping the paths we walk and the meetings that await us. What we love, we are called to honor. What we promise, we are called to keep, even when years lie between. As you return from this tale to your own life, may you walk your road with a faithful heart, and may the lights you kindle for others guide you also when your own night of souls draws near. For more stories that can help you relax, don't forget to like and subscribe.